Hi everyone, I'm Jo Fry and this is my channel, Jojo Fry Rocks. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the caged system. So this is something that I have never learnt. I've heard about it. I kind of think that I know what it is, but I'm not 100% sure. So what I'm going to do is just have a look at a kind of introductory lesson on the CAGED system today and see if it's kind of interesting enough to want to find out a little bit more about it. So if this is something that you already know and that's helped your playing, please let me know in the comments. Similarly, if you think this is a bit of a waste of time and I don't need to bother learning it and there's a better system to learn how to kind of map out the fretboard and find out where all the notes are on the fretboard, then please let me know. Okay, so we're going to dive into this video with Dr. Molly Miller, who is an excellent guitar teacher on YouTube and well worth checking out her channel. This is her kind of 10-minute overview of the CAGED system.
Try a free lesson from my CAGED learning pathway with Pickup Music. Let's get started by giving you an overview of what the CAGED system actually is and the steps you'll need to learn it. The CAGED system is based around 5 guitar chord shapes: C, A, G, E, and D. We take these 5 chord shapes and move them up the neck. So, for example, I'm in the key of C. I play my C shape to get a C chord. I then play my A shape to get another C chord. I then play my G shape to get another C chord. I then play my E shape to get another C chord. And then, of course, finally, I play my D shape to get a final C chord. And we can do this in any key. Rather than get lost in an ocean of notes, this system gives you a map that breaks up the fretboard into these 5 shapes.
Okay, so I think I understand what she's getting at. And if you think about it, most people, when you learn your basic chords, you learn all your open chords. So all the chord shapes that she was talking about there, you basically learn as the first sort of chords that you learn. So CAGED stands for C, A, G. Apparently that's an old school G. Apparently a modern G is like this. But I'm old school, so we're gonna stick with the old school G. E and D. All right, so we know all of those as a beginner. Usually you get to know those first. And then kind of the first bar chords that you learn will be the E-shaped bar chords that have the root note on the bottom E string. So you will kind of use your first finger of your left hand as like a movable nut or movable capo, if you like. And you will then kind of use that E shape to go up and down the fretboard with your kind of movable capo. So you've got an F, and then a B, and then an A, etc., etc. So you're just sliding that shape up and down to make different chords using your left hand first finger as a movable nut or capo. So you already know the E-shaped chords that you're going to slide around, move up and down in this CAGED system. More often than not, if you've learnt those, you will probably also have learnt the A-shaped bar chords. So same thing, and just moving that shape up and down the neck to make different chords. So it seems like we're going to apply that principle, I think, to some of these other open chord shapes. So the C shape, the G shape, and the D shape. But to me, that sounds like it's going to be quite challenging, because it's a little bit more challenging to make some of those shapes, I think, without this finger. So you've got to just use your other 3 fingers. But let's see how she breaks it down and teaches it. So, is there going to be a magically easier way of making a G shape? Because that, if you're just doing it with these 3 fingers, is going to be really quite difficult, I think. But let's see.
The cool thing is that each shape connects to the next shape, and it is this continuous cycle. We then build these shapes into full scales. We find the chord tones, we find the pentatonic scale, then the major scale, and arpeggios. We can do the same thing for each shape and connect them across the fretboard. This allows you to break out of those beginner boxes and start to express yourself in a more melodic way, up and down the fretboard. A good way to start your CAGED journey is to think about this. How many ways can you play a C chord up your fretboard?
Right, so as we've just said, I can think of at least 3. There's number 1. Here's the second one. So that's that A shape. And then there's the E-shaped C chord. So I can think of 3 different C-shape chords up the neck. But she's probably going to tell us what the other ones are, I'd imagine.
You should already know this open C, 5th string root bar chord C, and 6th string root bar chord C. Well, guess what? You already know 3 out of the 5 CAGED shapes, your C, A, and E shape. You'll notice that each of these shapes has a name, and these names come from your open beginning chords. So the C shape is based off the C chord you already know. Now, this bar chord here, why is it called A shape? Check it out. Right here, it's a C chord, but when you move it down, it's based off this A open chord that you already know. It's the same shape. Here we are as an A chord, move it up. Now it's a C chord based off your A shape. Your E shape is based off this open E chord, and when moved up, can become any shape, but in this case, it's a C chord because of that root. Now, one thing to make note of, you'll notice I'm moving and using my first finger as the nut. It's kind of like having your...
Yeah, okay, we know that, we understand that bit, so that's fine. Let's just have a look at what the other shapes are. So we've already covered the C, the A, and the E. So now we need to have a look at the shapes, or how she's making the shapes for the G and the D.
Become a capo. Let's get into the 2 remaining shapes, G and D. You may guess your G shape is based off of this open G chord. Same thing as before. So now when I move it up, I can use my first finger as a sort of imaginary capo or nut, and I'll move it all the way up so my 6th string root is no longer a G, but now a C. Now, side note, I would not play this chord in real life, so don't feel like you have to actually play it. It's about the visualization of it. So notice this is a C chord G shape. Now, same concept for your D chord.
Okay, that's really hard. Like, I think that's really hard. I'm finding that stretch very difficult. I'm not sure I would easily be able to play that if I had to change between that chord and another chord. I would struggle, I think.
E shape you know and love, and we're going to move it up and act as if our first finger then becomes like the capo or the nut. Move it all the way up to where our C is a root. This is a C chord D shape. So let's summarize what we have. We started with the C shape. Notice how this root connects to the next chord. Right here, and now we're going to this A shape. They share that root. Now check out the front of my A shape, how it connects to the back of my G shape. They have this zone right here that we'll call the equator, where this A shape and G shape connect. So check out this with the G shape. This front root, 6th string, connects to the next shape, our E shape. Same root. Now the front of the E shape connects to the back of the D shape. We have this 4th string root right here that connects to our D shape. So all 5 shapes connect together, and it is a beautiful circle where this D shape, notice this little triangle, connects to the high up C shape. That same triangle is at the bottom of our C shape. So there we have our 5 shapes of the CAGED system. So let's take a step back. The CAGED system is not about playing these shapes I've been showing you perfectly up and down your guitar neck.
Well, that's good, because that isn't going to happen anytime soon.
How to see the fretboard. It's unlocking the neck so you can move seamlessly from one end to the other in any key. You can use the CAGED system to learn scales, to learn arpeggios, to learn triads, and most importantly, it truly is a system for visualizing your fretboard. In this exercise, we're going to play the 5 shapes of the CAGED system. C, A, G, but we'll break it up into 2 pieces, just the lower and the higher, E shape, and just that triangle of the D shape. We're doing this because it's going to really help us set up that foundation so you can visualize the shapes. Once again, this visualization is so important. So this doesn't have to be perfect. Don't get stressed out about making sure every note is perfect. More so what's important is that you can visualize it, you can see it, you have a feel for it. So give it your best go. Starting with our C shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get ready for that A shape. 4. G shape broken into 2 pieces. A. E shape. And D shape, 2, 3, 4. Whole thing from the top, okay? Back to the C shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. G shape. E shape. Great work. So what we'll do in this next exercise is play our roots in each shape. We'll start with our C shape and play our root on the 5th string, our root on the 2nd string, jump up to our A shape right here and play our root on the 5th string and play that root on the 3rd string. In our G shape, we have 3 roots, 6th string, 3rd string. Notice that same 3rd string from our A shape. I still want you to be paying attention to how those chords connect. And then that root on the 1st string. In our E shape, we have 3 roots as well, 6th string, 4th string, and 1st string. In the last shape, our D shape, we have 2 roots. 4th string, that low open string, if we're in our open position, so we have our 4th string, and then our 2nd string root. Let's get ready, get into that C shape. We'll identify these roots. A. Ready for the A shape? Here we go. G shape, here we go. 3, 4. 3, 4. D shape, 2, 3, 4. Back to the top, 2, 3, 4. Switch, 3, 4. G shape.
You're already ahead.
3, 4. Switch, 2, 3, 4. If you want the full experience, including interactive tab, play-along exercises, and video feedback of your playing, sign up at pickupmusic.com today. You can try the full program for free for 14 days.
Okay, so that was just a quick kind of overview, really, of what the CAGED system is. And I think that's quite a self-explanatory introduction, right? So it's just sliding some more of the open chord shapes up and down the neck, kind of with that bar chord type idea. But I think by doing that exercise of going through each shape and finding the root note is particularly useful. So I think this is what it's useful for. I don't think it's going to be that useful for just finding like alternative ways to play a C chord necessarily, right? Because there are so many different ways to play a C chord, and there are inversions where you start the chord from a note that isn't the tonic, that isn't the root note, from one of the other notes within the chord, like the fifth or something, or the second. And there are also kind of triads as well. And as long as you kind of know your notes within the chord, you can make up that triad kind of wherever you want, in whatever way you kind of want. So this isn't necessarily a way of just kind of finding alternative ways to play a C chord. I don't think, I mean, I never say never, but like, I don't think I'm ever gonna use that as an alternative C chord. If I want a C chord higher up the neck, I'm going to go for my E-shaped bar chord. This one's quite nice though, and I think although you do have the root note kind of there on the fourth string, I think you can get away with just doing the D shape if you just play those three strings. And what is kind of cool, and I didn't necessarily realise, is that then this D shape is just something that you can slide up and down, like pretty much if you're just playing those three strings. You can just sort of get away with playing it like that. So as long as you just play those strings, don't play all the rest of the strings, because it's not going to sound very good. But you can just kind of shift that chord shape up and down, and you know, you've got a whole load of different alternative chords there. So that's pretty cool. It is cool to know that. That's quite useful. But yeah, I don't think that I'm going to be necessarily using that G shape to play alternative chords. It's more as an exercise to develop your knowledge of where the notes are on the neck. So doing that exercise of finding kind of the root notes and then finding the next root notes, so kind of going and then finding the ones for the G shape, which were, and then where was it? I think it was there. Yeah. And then finding the ones for the E shape, which would, and then kind of finding your you see there, and then this one. Then I've just found C's all over the place where I didn't necessarily know that they were before, but now I've got a way to map them out because I know those chord shapes. I know that in those positions that will give me a C chord, and I know where those root notes are. So if I were to use that principle, I could go through each of the different chord shapes, do that exercise, and it will help me to, I think, kind of understand where the notes are. So I think it's one way of trying to understand and map the fretboard. She did talk about how this can be used in terms of like scales, arpeggios, major and minor and pentatonic and arpeggios. She didn't actually go into it because it was only a 10-minute overview, but I expect there are probably some lessons like on her channel or on her website, or probably a course, so you can go into it a little bit deeper. And I may well do, because I think it's quite interesting. I haven't looked into it before, and it might help me, as I say, to try and understand a little bit more about kind of how to mentally map the fretboard, so that will begin to unlock some of the things that I've been trying to do in terms of like improvisation, for example. Anyway, thanks for having a look at that with me. Let me know what you think. As I say, do you swear by the CAGED system? Should I get into this and kind of learn it off by heart? Is that going to help me in my playing journey? Or do you think that actually this is a bit of a limited system and I should be sort of developing my knowledge of music theory, learning inversions, learning the triads and stuff? Would that be a better investment of my time? As always, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Okay, cheers everyone.